Hey, what's up, guys? Hey, if you hear a little bit of lightning, sorry, that's it's happening outside. Anyways, we read this weekend chapters 4 and chapters 5 of Multicultural Education and Pluralistic Society, the ninth edition. All right, and it talked about sexual identity and also talked about gender. Okay, so we will be talking about both these topics: ethnicity and gender, equality in jobs, and we'll be talking about the LGBTQ community and finding your role within your sexual preferences, your sexual orientation, okay, and defining your role and who you are, okay. So we'll be talking about all those topics today, but before we do, I'm going to talk about something that I disagree with. Just like in other chapters, there's things that I agree with, things that I disagree with. One of the things I disagree with, okay, is this statement that was in this book within chapter 4. It says, these researchers conclude that speaking, reading, mathematics, mechanical ability, and interpersonal characteristics such as aggression, empathy, risk-taking, and competitiveness are learned, not innate. I kind of have to disagree with that. I think we do have an innate sense of empathy and an innate sense of competitiveness. Okay. If you squish a bug in front of a little kid, that kid will probably empathize with that bug. You know, he'll be like, "Oh, that poor bug. You know, why'd you kill him? You know, all that kind of stuff." Well, that's known without being taught. I remember my baby cousin Georgia, right? When she was a year and a half, she hit a squirrel by accident, right? And my Aunt Becky, she just read books to her. But they were talking about colors and shapes and being a princess, okay? But she accidentally hit a squirrel and felt bad for the rest of the day and really empathized with that squirrel. Was asking questions all day about the squirrel. All right, so I don't think that that's something that's taught. I think that's something that is innate. But it's us teaching our kids to be a certain way that changes their innate beliefs or innate knowledge. So essentially, if you have a kid at a baseball game, right, and it's your kid, he's up to bat and he gets hit with a baseball. Gets hit with a baseball, starts crying, and then heads over to the dugout, right? And another kid says, "Hey man, are you okay? That looked like it hurt." And the kid will be like, "I'm fine." And the kid will start empathizing with the other kid. Well, then the man walks in, right? And he says, "Hey son, there's no crying in baseball. Men don't cry, right? Men don't cry. Men don't do this. Men don't do that. Men do this. Same for women. Women don't do that. Women do this. Women don't belch." Like that kind of stuff is taught to men and women. All right, so that's trying to place our kids in these gender stereotypes. All right, now we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about the LGBTQ community. But moving on, we talked about last chapter ethnicity, so we're going to be talking a little bit about ethnicity and gender. Okay, so does it really play a role? Was one of the questions asked in chapter 4, and I'll just give you straight up. It might play a small role, but I don't think ethnicity plays a huge role when comparing ethnicity and gender and how far somebody will get in life or the problems that they'll deal with. I think ethnicity outweighs gender, and gender will take a back seat to ethnicity every time. Like if I have a daughter and I'm raising her up, I'm going to tell her she's beautiful. I'm going to tell her she's going to accomplish whatever she wants to accomplish. I'm going to support her 100% on whatever it is, right? But she's going to know that she's going to have a little bit more problems, a little bit more roadblocks than other women might have that are white, just because she's black, right? And it might not be about gender. It might just be because she's black. So it's important that she knows this, and she will know that, especially within elementary school. I think they start to know who they are and start to see that they are different, not only within gender but within ethnicity, and start to see those differences and experience them themselves. All right, so ethnicity trumps gender, but gender still plays a huge role in who you are, figuring out who you are, determining what jobs you'll get, what opportunities you'll have. Okay, a man is more likely to get hired than a woman. especially for jobs such as a CEO, right? If a man is more likely to become a CEO than a woman. It's just how it is. Can it be accomplished for a woman? Yes. Oh, yeah. But it's definitely not equal. So talking about equality in jobs, that was the next topic in chapter 4. Okay, while we have come a very long way in equality for women, I mean, 30 years ago, geez, I didn't have much, but we've come a long way just as race, just as black people have come a very long way for acceptance and for equality. Well, women do not have the same opportunities that men do right now, but they do have more of an opportunity than they did before. Now, I think part of this is part of our culture and how we raise our kids to be and our mindset, right? So a man is naturally supposed to be a breadwinner. He's supposed to bring home the bacon. He's supposed to support his family and take care of his wife, right? Now, what happens if a man doesn't make as much money as his wife, and his wife is actually supporting them more than he is? And that man, the men, their whole lives are taught to be the breadwinners. They're taught to make as much money as they can, support their family as best as they can. And if they're all of a sudden not able to do that, then essentially men start to feel worthless. Like, what is my point in life? If I can't provide for my family, what's the point? Am I really worth something? And so men start to think about that. And that concept, that idea, okay, is what prohibits women from furthering themselves as well. But women promote that idea as well, I think, because they also expect men to just earn more than them, right? But at the same time, they want to earn more than men. And so it's just like it's a conflict of ideas that neither side is letting the other side progress any. So I do think that there will be more equality for women, but I think that it's going to be hard and the road is going to be long, just as race, just the same as ethnicity. All right. So the last thing that we're going to talk about was in chapter 5, and that's the LGBTQ community. Okay, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transvestites. Okay. They went through the same thing almost as the civil rights movement, right? There was a gay rights movement. And so the gays fought for equal rights, had sit-ins, had some riots, and were also, persecuted, as well as minorities were within this country. However, they have come a far way, just like we have as a minority group. So I think equality is definitely on the forefront. I think that as we progress as a people, I think it's important to think of everybody as equal. There may be differences, whether it be an outward appearance or inside thoughts. If you're smart, if you're athletic, if you're gay, if you're straight, whatever, people need to be equal. We're all human. We're all experiencing the human experience. And we're all on this path together. And I think we should reflect that in how we treat others. But the one thing I want to talk about is, what is our role as teachers when we have gay or lesbian students in our classroom, or transsexuals or bisexuals? What is our role as teachers? Well, I think that's very simple. Encourage the student. Encourage them to be themselves, to not be scared, and to learn as much as you can and better yourself as much as you possibly can. And I think it's important to not belittle that person or force our opinions on that person, but rather help them through their process. They're exploring, they're learning who they are, and then once they know who they are, I think it's important to encourage them, because that's who they're going to be. So don't bash them. Help them, encourage them, love them. All right, and I think that's our role as teachers. I had one student, I won't mention her name, but she was lesbian. She found out in 7th grade. Right? She knew. And some of her fellow classmates, right? That's when they started to ostracize her. They start that in middle school, and then it develops into cliques within high school, right? So they start to break away into their groups, and she was being left out in all these different groups. And so she was just upset. She was saddened. And, I told her, I said, come here. Be happy with who you are. You'll find great friends, and you'll live a great life. Don't let one person's thoughts hurt you or change who you are. Accept who you are, embrace it, and love yourself. And I helped her out with whatever she was dealing with, the different problems and stuff. And I got to tell you, by the end of the semester before I left that student teaching internship, I got one of the nicest letters I got from any of the students, which I got quite a few. But one of the nicest letters, and she told me how much of an impact I had on her life, and how much I helped her out in progressing who she was and loving herself. And that put a smile on my face. I was overjoyed. So I think it's important to encourage the students to love on them and not treat them any different. All right, but at the same time, if you are a lesbian or gay and you have a kid, I do think it's important that you help that kid in exploring and learning who they are, and give them both sides of, give them both perspectives from both parents, from a mother's perspective and from a father's perspective, right? So one of the problems that I've heard about, and I've read about some articles, and if you want to know the names of some of these articles, just ask me, but I saw that a lot of the kids essentially within these households become like the poster childs, for that specific group of people, for the gay community. And when they become the poster child for the gay community, they feel like they have to fully support everything that their parents are doing, or have to be gay themselves, or they feel like they have to take on the burden that the gay people have when they become gay, facing, when they start facing all these comments from other people and all this negative vibes and everything like that. The kid feels like they have to take on that burden as well. And I think it's important that if you are gay, to make sure that you raise your kid in a way that they are still being able to experience both sides, and that they are free to express themselves as well, and they don't have to fit in within a certain box. Another thing that I might add to that is that there are some articles talking about people who are sexually confused. So when it's time for the kid to start developing and figuring out who they are, I think it's important to let them experience, let them explore, and to encourage them, just as I said the teachers would, to love on them, and whatever they choose, be happy and love them and tell them that you're there for them. Okay, but it's important to also, while they're growing up, give them both perspectives and love on them from both sides. So if it's two women in the household, make sure that you are teaching them also how to be a man. So they're not confused when they start growing up and they're like, what? I'm a boy. How do I become a man? Start teaching them young, and have those influences from both sides. Okay? So that's all I have to say on that. Anyways, two things we could improve on. All right, at the end of this chapter, these two chapters, two things that I think that we could improve on as teachers is accepting others for who they are. Okay, if somebody decides to be gay, or if you have a black woman in your class, whatever it is, accept that person for who they are and teach them equally and love on them equally. Another thing would be basically changing our societal norms. I think we can improve upon that, changing our societal norms and letting kids know that exploration and different thoughts are okay. I mean, not necessarily, saying exploring at a young age, males and females, but, if one kid likes to, paint and he's a boy, rather than play football, that's okay. Embrace it. love your kid for who they are and what they love. All right. So I think we can improve upon that as a people, as a society, and also put into practice. I think that within my classroom, when I have a classroom, okay, I'll be teaching equality within the classroom, no matter who you are, no matter what color your skin is, what you believe in, whether you're gay or straight, you're equal in my eyes. I mean, honestly, I would take a bullet for anybody. If you have a gay person here and you have, somebody who has, is a bully in school, I still have hope for them. Or, you have a black person, a Latino person, they're all the same. They all are deserving of love and hope. And I would gladly take a bullet. I would take a bullet for them, but that's just because of who I am and how I've grown up. Anyways, but that's the perspective that I think that we should have. And also encouraging kids to love who they are. I think we should always be doing that, encouraging them to love who they are. All right. And if I had one question, honestly, I have a lot of gay friends, but I haven't asked anything to this extent to them. I haven't asked, what does the LGBTQ community face on a day-to-day basis? And so I would like to get to know a little bit more about that, so I could help out kids that are experiencing, those troubles within the classroom as well. All right, so that's it. Thanks. I'll see you guys next week.